Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to answer which one is the better dividend stock to buy today, Ford Motor Company or UPS United Parcel Service. To answer that question, I'm going to look at dividend yield, revenue, cash flow, profit margin, and valuation. So let's jump right in, starting with the dividend yield. They're close, but Ford beats UPS with a dividend yield of 4.84% compared to 4% for UPS. But remember, I often like to say dividend yield is just one component of your total return. The other part, which could be even larger, is the change in the stock price. So let's look at the other variables that could impact the change in the stock price. And one of those is revenue. Interestingly, Ford and UPS experienced different trajectories going into and coming out of the pandemic. Ford is benefiting coming out of the pandemic as supply chain shortages have mostly worked in its favor. The company's revenue jumping to 169.8 billion in the most recent trailing 12 months. Now, of course, you've all probably heard of the ongoing strikes, and that could impact the company if they persist much longer. UPS, meanwhile, experienced a boom during the pandemic because people were spending more time at home. Restaurants and away from home experiences were mostly closed off, and so people were buying more goods. And of course, if people are buying goods, those goods, some of them are being shipped to their homes, and that benefited UPS. But now that economies are reopened and people are going out more often, UPS is experiencing a revenue decline as a result. Looking at the profit margin comparison between these two, UPS has held the advantage for the most part in the last decade, and certainly in the last few years. Its operating profit margin of 12.09% is down slightly from its peak, closer to 14%, as the company has had to pay higher costs to make deliveries, higher wages, and now even higher wages as a result of contract negotiation. Those costs are going to go even higher. To offset that, UPS has raised prices significantly across the board, and so we'll see which portion has a stronger impact on the company, the higher costs or the higher prices. Meanwhile, Ford, benefiting from the supply chain shortages, like I mentioned earlier, it's able to produce and sell only the highest priced models. And so it doesn't really need to manufacture. It chose to manufacture only the highest priced models, place a priority on those, and not make the lower priced, lower profit margin models. And that's not just with Ford, that's been the case industry wide. So consumers have had fewer choices on which cars they can buy, having to pick between only the highest priced options. Consumers have been picking and buying, and it's worked out well for automakers across the board, and Ford is benefiting, its operating profit margin rising significantly to 7.47%. Looking at cash flow from operations, you see a similar story with UPS and Ford, with UPS taking the lead here, 11.86%, and Ford coming back here, 7.55%. Similar to their operating profit margin, not much difference between these two in this metric, but it's interesting nevertheless to take a look to make sure that there isn't significant difference between operating profitability and cash flow from operations. And finally, I wanted to look at these two on valuation, and UPS is significantly more expensive, trading at a forward price to earnings of 14.96, while Ford is trading at a forward price to earnings of 6.504. Now, I have to say that if these two were trading at the same price, at the same valuation, I would choose UPS. It would be a no-brainer. However, UPS, even though it's a better performing company with better prospects, it's trading too much of a premium, in my opinion, compared to Ford Motor Company. And so if I had to pick one of these two dividend stocks to buy today, I would pick Ford Motor Company.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.